carted off the field in training camp. He's now out 6 to 8 weeks with torn ligaments in his ankle, making him unlikely to be on the field week 1 for Cincinnati. See, what was your reaction when you heard the news?
One of the most underrated wide receivers that we've had in the league the last 8 years, and he started off, man, him and Julio Jones, stat for stat. First 7 years, last 2 years, A.J. Green's gotten hurt, and you're talking about a stable voice, a stable personality, one of the low-maintenance wide receivers you'll ever have in the NFL. This is a big injury for them. I believe he's going to miss probably the first month of the season.
And that might be the most competitive division in football, with the defending champion AFC North Ravens, defending AFC North champion Ravens, the Steelers, who expect to bounce back, and Coach Mangini's Cleveland Browns. To not have the best player on your team for the first month of the year is brutal.
Yeah, it's just devastating for a new head coach, and you really want to see what they can do offensively, and it's just so hard to overcome.
Giants also got some bad news. Golden Tate suspended for 4 games after testing positive for using a fertility drug. They've also already lost Corey Coleman for the season to a torn ACL, and Sterling Shepard has a fractured finger. If only the Giants had another top receiver to rely on, but they don't. Coach, what do you make of what's going on with the Giants?
Well, this is one of those excuses that actually seem viable to me. I mean, I don't know a lot about the fertility drugs, but it actually seemed like this could be one of those mistakes that was a legitimate mistake. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Well, we've had at least one other player, I think 2 other players, fail a test for the same reason, and the NFL, it's like, hey, that stinks, but you still got to serve those 4 games. So Golden Tate almost assuredly is going to miss these 4 games, and for the Giants, it means they've got Evan Ingram and question marks at wide receiver after in a year where they're either going to be starting a rookie or trying to prop up Eli. They all of a sudden have a wide receiving group that for the first month of the season will be the most bereft of talent of any in the league.
Yeah, I'm all about fulfilling God's commission, be fruitful and multiply. But a couple guys have already got dinged with the fertility thing. Listen, if I'm having an issue or something, I can't give you no baby until I'm out the league. I told my wife, we can't do this. I can't jeopardize. Man, he lost a couple $1 million there. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And them kids are going to cost you more money.
Exactly.
That's a bad
They're
beat.
real expensive.
I can't. I have no words. I have no words except more football words. Good news for Bobby Wagner. He signed a 3-year, $54 million extension with the Seahawks this week, and he doesn't need fertility drugs.
Nope.
With over $40 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid inside linebacker in football. See, put this into perspective. Just how good is Wagner?
I believe Bobby Wagner, for a long period of time, was the best defender that they had. Yes, even when they had Earl, even when they had Sherm, Cam Chancellor, they got all the news, but Bobby was the stabilizing force. You cannot throw the ball intermediate or short against him. He is so quick on his reads. His diagnosis in the running game, you have not been able to run the ball on Seattle since he's been there. That's the best compliment you can give an inside linebacker.
I was really impressed that he did his own contract, and one of the main reasons was he wanted the organization to have to tell him the negative things they felt about him, which makes it's really hard to sit across from the player and say, well, you're not as good as this guy, or you failed at this, and then have to go back out and have him lead your team. Thought that was a really interesting take that, or a way that he went, and it paid off.
And he got a great contract, and it's
and he doesn't have to pay commission.
Right, and he got the great contract for himself, but also for the team in this regard, because it's only a 3-year deal. If his play does fall off, they're not committed to him long term.
All right, let's finish up with Ezekiel Elliott. He did not show up to camp on Friday, continued to hold out throughout the weekend. According to reports, he has yet to counter the Cowboys' extension offer. Could be a long battle between the two sides. Coach Mangini, is Zeke handling this the right way? Is there a right way?
Yeah, there really isn't a great way to handle a holdout. But I actually understand where he's coming from. They're talking about...
Whoa, cool.
I know.
Hey.
Well, here, from a business perspective, you've got Dak and Amari, who are about to get paid. So he could be very easily coming back next season, and they're saying, well, look, we spent all that money on Dak, and we spent all that money on Amari. We don't really have as much money for you. So by inserting himself into these 2 contracts, now they've got to take that pot of money and divvy it up equally, or divvy it up however they see those 3 players. And I think that's a smart play by him, and to do it at this point with all the praise that's been heaped on him, with what he stirs the
straw that stirs the drink.
When you start praising a player like that, then you better pay him like, I mean, that's a platinum straw, or I don't even know what metal that would be.
First of all, I really want to give you a hug right now. I'm so glad this is this is what you said.
Don't do that.
Boundaries.
But I am, and while I agree with you nearly entirely, and I think the Cowboys they backed themselves into this corner. Stephen Jones talked about, and Jerry talked about paying Dak. They all talked about paying Amari. And then Stephen Jones in May said two very interesting things about paying Zeke. One was, the exact quote is, obviously, it starts at what Todd Gurley got and goes from there. Well, I mean, that's just handing not a blank check, but a 4-year, $58 million with $45 million guaranteed check, and saying it starts from there. But the other thing he said was, but we've got a couple years to get this done. I'm sure Zeke heard that and said, wait, a couple years? You're talking about taking care of all these other guys. I've been the best player on your team. And while Chris is adamant, and I totally agree, that it is not Zeke's responsibility to worry about other guys getting paid, I am curious as a coach if you'd be concerned about how this could play in the locker room when Zeke, while we can argue he's been underpaid, he's paid like a top 5 pick. Dak, who's been the quarterback, who's never missed a game, never been in trouble, has been paid like a 4th-round pick, which is $1 million a year thereabouts. And Zeke almost trying to cut the line in this regard. I think it's totally justifiable on Zeke's end, but would you worry about how the locker room, most notably Dak and Amari, are going to react to Zeke not being there when they are there?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but those contracts are in the works, and his contract was not in the works. So and I'm sure he approached him and said, this is something I want to do. They said, you're probably going to have to wait, and he took a stand. And look, I get where he's coming from a business perspective. Now, I wonder if he's going to take a step back and say, okay, I was suspended for those games. I did have the other issue this offseason that didn't really go anywhere, but there's been some things along those lines, and it is early. Is he going to take some discount because of those behaviors? And typically, the answer is no to that.
How long do you think this will play out for? Do you think this would bleed into the regular season?
I don't think so. I think the Cowboys understand how important he is. I mean, Amari's great, and Dak's great.
He's the focal point of this offense.
Yeah, he is the straw that stirs the drink. They were right on with saying that. So they're going to have to get him in and figure out a way to make this work.
And he's the best player on the team. This is what the players respect in the locker room. Who's the best? All right? You don't think, oh, man, did this guy get in trouble? Oh, did this guy, he get a traffic ticket? Man, we don't care. We don't care. Man, who can play the game of football? Who's going to make the Dallas Cowboys better? When you get in that locker room, that's what becomes important. All that, I was drafted in the 4th round. Well, that's your problem. That ain't no one else's problem. There's all kinds of stories. You imagine me telling Johnny Randall, hey, Johnny, you were a street free agent. You know something? Hey, buddy, that's tough luck. Man, Johnny Randall was out there getting his. I played with 7 Hall of Famers. You think we didn't have times where they was trying to get their money? You think that they didn't think that they were the best in the business? That's all a part of it. The one thing that people miss, fans, it's all the players against management. It ain't some of the players. And when management starts talking good about the players, the other players are like, okay, they didn't say that about me. Zeke should be concerned. Dak is going to get paid. That's a guarantee. Amari Cooper, because they traded for him, and the impact on Dak, he's going to get paid. That's a guarantee. So now how much of the pie do I have left? Zeke is a fool if he starts playing for the money he's playing for, where he wouldn't get any new money for 3 seasons. Man, you know, I mean, that's a lifetime in the NFL. We saw Todd Gurley. We saw L. Bell. Look at how their fortunes have changed over the last 3 years. We want Zeke to wait 3 years till he gets paid? That's not going to happen.
Also, look what the Cowboys look like without Ezekiel Elliott. It's not like they've got really depth at that position. Talk about what would happen if he did hold out, where this team could go without him on it.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing about the conversation, because when Amari got there, the offense did get better, and it helped Dak, and Dak has done some good things, but it all centers around everybody's trying to stop Zeke. And when you're loading up the box, when everything is focused on stopping that one player, it opens up an incredible amount of things for the other guys, for the tight end, for the wide receivers. When you take him out of that mix and now they can focus on Amari or they can focus on dealing with Dak exclusively, then it's a much harder road to go for the offense.
I know, Coach, when we had all those effective offenses in Minnesota, and it was generated by the wide receivers. Jake Reed and myself, 1,000-yard seasons, 4 seasons in a row. Then we get Randy Moss. When the quarterback would come to negotiate, they would tell him, it's our wideouts. And our wideouts, Jake got paid, Moss got paid, and I got paid. It was about who was the absolute best. And in Dallas, Ezekiel Elliott is the best, not offensive player, he's the best football player. He's the best, and when that star goes out there, when all those players run out there, Ezekiel Elliott is the best. And that locker room, they know that. They know when he's on the team, we got a better chance. So I don't think that Zeke holding out is going to reflect on the locker room in a negative way.
And maybe most importantly, it's not just that the Cowboys know that. To Coach's point, the opposition knows it. And the opposition, every game they play against Dallas, the first thing in the meetings is how are we going to slow down 21, and they go from there. And if all of a sudden he's not out there, as we saw for 6 weeks a couple of years ago, in the first 3 games, the Cowboys went 0-3 and scored 7 points per game in that first stretch. If it becomes, oh, Zeke's not out there, we can focus on, we can drop an extra man into coverage. We can focus on stopping what is a relatively pedestrian aerial attack.
Same thing they did to Jared Goff.
Yeah, then all of a sudden the offense grinds to a halt when the defense isn't focused on, because he's so good they can focus on stopping him, and he still wins a rushing title.
And look, you've got a first-time offensive coordinator. You need to help him out, and helping him out is having an elite running back in the backfield. You've got a head coach who's getting close to the end of his contract.
Yep.
There's a lot of pressure on him to perform as well. So to go into the season without your, like Chris said, the best player on your team, it's a hard thing to do, and he's really got the leverage over the Cowboys at this point.
All right, Coach, stick around. Another segment coming up. Why is this a unique challenge this coming